Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're exploring a book that, wow, it's sparked so much conversation, so much debate, really, for decades now.
hmm
Robert T. Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out back in 1997.
That's right, 97. And it's still everywhere.
It really is. It gets people talking.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack this really foundational text,
Yeah, dig into it.
pull out the core ideas, figure out why it's had such widespread appeal, and also, look critically at its strengths and maybe where it draws some fire.
Absolutely, a balanced look.
So the big question hanging over it is, why has this book resonated with so many people for so long? And maybe more importantly, what can you, listening now, really take away from it?
Well, what's really fascinating here, I think, is that it isn't just your standard how-to guide, the kind you grab off the shelf for quick tips.
Oh, it feels different.
It really is. This deep dive, it's more like a journey into a fundamentally different way of thinking about money. It challenges a lot of traditional assumptions.
So genre-wise, where does it sit?
Definitely personal finance, self-help, maybe investment too. But the core aim seems to be shifting your perspective, much more than just giving you like step-by-step instructions.
Okay, so at the heart of it, Kiyosaki uses this semi-autobiographical thing, right? The poor dad and the rich dad.
That's the central device.
It's such a compelling way to frame his ideas, but I wonder, does it risk oversimplifying things? Making the complex reality of building wealth a bit too black and white.
That's a really good point. Does it oversimplify?
Yeah. What's the fundamental shift in thinking he's actually aiming for with this really stark comparison?
Well, the contrast is definitely stark, you're right. So poor dad, that's Kiyosaki's actual father, highly educated, a government employee.
Valued job security, traditional schooling, the conventional path.
Exactly, the safe route. Then you have rich dad. Now, this is supposedly his best friend's father, high school dropout, interestingly enough.
Right. But became a very wealthy entrepreneur and investor.
Precisely. And this dad championed totally different things. Financial education, taking calculated risks, really developing business sense.
So the contrast isn't just for story.
No, not at all. It's designed really deliberately to highlight these massive differences in mindset, in habits, between people who build wealth and those who, well, stay stuck in the middle class or worse.
And his big argument flows from that.
Yeah, he argues that traditional schools, they teach people how to work for money.
Get a good job, climb the ladder.
Right. But crucially, he says they don't teach you how to make money work for you.
Okay, so when he talks about making money work for you,
Mm.
what does that actually look like in practice for someone listening trying to figure out their own finances?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like he's saying you can't just rely on, your degree or your job training.
That's exactly it. His core message is really a call to action, to gain what he calls financial intelligence.
Financial intelligence.
Okay. Yeah. And that means actively taking responsibility for your own learning. Understanding money, how taxes really work, the different kinds of investments out there, and critically, how to build income-generating assets.
So be your own financial teacher, essentially.
Yes. Don't wait for your employer or the school system because they likely won't provide it. You have to seek it out.
Okay, now let's get into maybe the most famous concept from the book. Assets versus liabilities.
Oh, yes. The big one.
The rich buy assets. The poor and middle class buy liabilities that they think are assets. That quote is everywhere.
It really is. It's probably the key takeaway for many people.
But it's also where you get some flack, right? Especially that claim about your house being a liability.
Definitely controversial at that point.
So how does truly understanding this difference, even with that controversial bit, how does that change how someone might approach their spending, their saving, like today?
Well, it can be a total game changer. Kiyosaki's definitions are super simple, maybe too simple for some, but powerful.
Okay, break it down.
Assets, anything that puts money in your pocket. Simple as that.
Right.
Think stocks that pay dividends, rental properties bringing in rent, maybe a business you own that generates profit.
Got it. And liabilities.
Liabilities, anything that takes money out of your pocket.
Okay, examples.
Mortgages on your own home, that's the controversial one.
Yeah.
Car payments, credit card debt, unnecessary stuff you buy that costs money to maintain or just depreciates.
And he links this directly to the rat race.
Yep. That's his term for living paycheck to paycheck. You're just working constantly to cover bills, running on a hamster wheel. You can't get ahead.
And the way out.
Build passive income streams. Buy or create assets that generate money without you having to actively work for it all the time.
Hmm.
The goal is to work because you want to, not because you have to just to survive.
So it really shifts your focus. Instead of
Yeah.
just accumulating stuff, you focus on accumulating things that generate income. Like, instead of buying that flashy car that loses value and costs you insurance and gas,
Right.
Kiyosaki might say, hey, what if you put that money into a dividend stock or started a tiny online side hustle? Could that actually pay you back over time?
That's exactly the thinking. Turn consumption decisions into potential investment opportunities.
It forces you to look at every dollar differently. Does this add to my assets or my liabilities?
Absolutely. It encourages that deeper look. And, beyond just what you buy, the book also really emphasizes why you work and the role emotions play.
Ah, okay. Tell us more about that. Why you work so important for Kiyosaki?
Well, he strongly advocates for working to learn valuable skills, not just chasing the highest salary right now.
Learn versus earn, essentially.
Exactly. He highlights skills like sales, marketing, investing, people management, things he sees as crucial for long-term financial success, even if the job teaching them pays less initially.
And the emotions part,
He stresses how emotional decision-making can really mess things up financially.
like fear.
Fear of losing money, absolutely. Or greed, wanting more and more, faster and faster. He argues these emotions often lead to poor choices, stopping people from taking beneficial actions or causing them to take foolish risks.
And financial literacy helps with that.
That's his view.
Mhm.
Understanding the game helps you manage those emotions, assess risks more rationally, more effectively.
This raises such an important question, though. I feel like so many people grapple with this. How do you balance that immediate need for income, paying the bills now,
The practical reality?
with this drive to acquire skills that might maybe pay off big later? It feels like a real tension point.
It absolutely is a tension point, and Kiyosaki, I think, would argue it's about strategic thinking.
How so?
Well, sometimes taking a lower-paying job that offers a really steep learning curve in a critical skill area that might be more valuable in the long run than a higher-paying job that offers zero growth.
So investing in yourself, your human capital.
Exactly. Building your skills and knowledge base, not just your bank account balance in the immediate short term.
That really hits home. I remember feeling that exact tension early in my career. Do I take the bigger paycheck now? Or this other role that, yeah, pays less, but offers a chance to master something totally new.
It's a strategic choice we all face, right? And Kiyosaki really puts a spotlight on it.
Yes.
Another area Kiyosaki touches on, though, maybe a bit more briefly, is the strategic use of taxes and corporations.
Right. That felt a bit more advanced.
It is. But he explains how the wealthy often use corporate structures, perfectly legally, to minimize their tax burden.
Wow.
Things like reinvesting profits within the corporation before taking them personally, shielding personal assets from business liabilities. Techniques, he argues, that the average middle-class person just doesn't understand or utilize.
Okay, so that's definitely part of that rich mindset he's describing.
For sure. It's presented as another tool the rich use differently.
So let's shift a bit and talk about the book itself, its style, its overall impact. What makes it so readable?
Well, the writing style is super conversational. It's really easy to understand, even if you're new to finance concepts.
Yeah.
He avoids jargon for the most part.
And the story format helps.
Hugely. That whole rich dad versus poor dad narrative is very engaging. It makes the lessons stick because they're tied to these characters and anecdotes.
Yeah. And the repetition.
Ah, yes. He does repeat his key ideas quite a bit. For some readers, that's fantastic. It really drills the concepts home, helps with retention.
But for others?
For others, yeah, it can feel a bit excessive, like, okay, I got it the first 3 times.
Fair enough. So boiling it down, what are its core strengths? Why has it stayed so popular for, nearly 30 years?
Well, first, it provides a refreshingly simple, practical framework for just thinking about money. That's incredibly motivating for people.
It makes financial independence seem possible.
Exactly, through those relatable stories. Second, it really bravely challenges a lot of deeply ingrained traditional beliefs about education, about job security, even about just saving money in a bank account.
It questions the status quo.
Big time. And fundamentally, its biggest strength is probably raising critical awareness about assets versus liabilities and the power of passive income. For many people reading it, that's a completely new paradigm shift in how they view their financial life.
Okay, but we have to be balanced. It's crucial to look at the other side, too. The criticisms.
Absolutely. No book is perfect,
Yeah.
and this one definitely attracts criticism.
What are the main ones?
Okay, first, while it's super motivational, many critics point out a lack of specific, concrete how-to strategies.
Lots of why, not enough how.
Pretty much. It gets you fired up, but you might finish it wondering, okay, but what do I do on Monday morning?
Right. What else?
Second, that rich versus poor mindset, the stark contrast we talked about, it can be seen as an oversimplification, maybe too black and white. It doesn't always capture the nuances of socioeconomic reality.
Fair point.
Third, there's been ongoing doubt about the realism of Rich Dad himself. Is he a real person? Or more of a composite character Kiyosaki created to make his points?
Doesn't matter.
To some critics, it affects the book's credibility if the central mentor figure isn't entirely real as presented. Kiyosaki's been a bit vague on it over the years.
Interesting. And finally,
The book's heavy focus on entrepreneurship, real estate investing, and generally higher risk ventures.
well, that might not suit everyone.
Not everyone wants to be a landlord or start a business.
Exactly. It might not resonate with more conservative investors or people whose financial situations just don't allow for that kind of risk-taking. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all financial plan.
Okay, so understanding those criticisms helps you, the listener, approach the book with a healthy dose of critical thinking, which is vital for any financial advice, really.
Absolutely essential.
So bringing it all together, who is this deep dive really for? And by extension, who is the book best suited for?
Well, based on our discussion, I'd say it's ideal for beginners, people just starting out in personal finance or investing who are looking for that foundational shift in perspective.
Getting their mindset right first. Exactly. It's particularly impactful, I think, for young adults maybe trying to break away from the financial scripts they inherited. Also for employees who feel genuinely stuck in that paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, the rat race.
And maybe entrepreneurs.
Yeah, entrepreneurs and self-learners often find the emphasis on asset creation and financial education really valuable.
But again, as we've really emphasized, it's crucial to see this book mostly as a way to shift your thinking. It's not a detailed roadmap.
Precisely. It pushes you to question those fundamental assumptions about money, about school, about your job.
Okay, so to wrap up our exploration of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's clear this book has had a huge, undeniably lasting impact.
No question about it.
Despite its flaws, despite the valid criticisms, it remains this incredibly inspiring, foundational read for just countless people. Its real value seems to be as a powerful entry point, kicking open the door to thinking about financial independence.
That's a great way to put it. It's best viewed as a motivational and philosophical guide, a fantastic first step for many.
But just a first step.
Exactly. You absolutely need to move on to other resources for the practical tools, the deeper, more specific strategies to actually build on the mindset it gives you.
So as you reflect on this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to mull over. If Rich Dad, Poor Dad encourages us to look beyond the traditional paths to find financial success, what current traditional wisdom might you need to question in your own life right now to truly grow your financial understanding and ultimately your freedom?
That's a powerful question to end on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep